Tech Heads, back again. We have yet another very special episode. This week, we hear the inspirational story of night security guard turned senior software engineering manager, Michael Pascuzzi. Plus, I finally get my hands on the world-famous cat coffee. And we might even touch on the recent iCarly resurgence. This is Tech Heads.
3, 2, 1.
So, here we go.
How you all feel tonight?
Let's get started.
Tech Heads back again. What's going on, Anna?
Hey, Victor. Hey, everyone. Just another weekend. I actually got some exercise in this morning because we're training for the Disney 5K coming up in April. So it feels good, to get out there. It's definitely getting hotter here in Florida. So that's, I know.
I heard.
I think it's supposed to reach 90 degrees today, which is crazy. But I mean, it's like transitioning to spring now. So, spring in Florida is the same thing as summer.
We have clear skies and it's 45.
Oh, I'm jealous of that.
Beautiful. But hey, Anna, I need to tell you some big news. I've been waiting to tell you this, but I hold in my possession right now, and I haven't tried it yet, a freshly brewed hot cup of cat coffee.
You're lying. No way.
I do.
Oh my God.
Big fan of the show and good friend of mine, Summer, sent it in. I got it in the mail, I think yesterday. And I'm about to try it for the first time right now. It's been in my little camper cup, so it's been nice and hot this whole time. But I'm about to try it right now.
Like live reaction to it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, to me at least.
Yeah. Let me get the drum roll going.
Okay.
Huh.
You didn't win, so I think that's a good sign.
Interesting. I need to have another sip, actually. While I have another sip, let's get a little explanation of what this is.
This is actually a Kopi Luwak coffee, which is sort of famous throughout the internet. The history of this is basically these animals in the forests of Indonesia, civets, have gone out and eaten the coffee cherries. And so the pit that we roast and turn into coffee comes out the other end. In their poop. I guess somebody was walking around the woods and said, "Oh, hey, that's still good," and saw it in the poop and said, "Oh, that's still good. Let me try that." And
pretty weird logic.
It's kind of become its own little thing. Some people are really into it.
This coffee is collected from poop.
It is. So
Poop.
This
coffee.
one's about $600 a pound.
No, I'm just $600 a pound.
$600 a pound, yeah.
For $600, the machine comes with it, right?
Yeah, so it's good. Is it? It's like noticeably different than any other black coffees I usually drink. It's good. I like it. I definitely won't be regularly getting it because each sip I take is like probably $5.
Exactly.
So shout out Summer. She sent in 10 grams of it. So that's like maybe half a cup of what I would normally drink. I usually drink like I don't know, I usually like for one cup I usually get 25 grams of coffee and grind it up. But this was a big special occasion for me. I grinded my beans right before we started recording in my bird grinder. I even took apart my grinder and cleaned it just to make sure that I don't get any other beans mixed in with it because I wanted to try it with its true taste. So it's good. I'm actually really into it, and I'm so shocked that it doesn't taste very feline-y like you mentioned a few weeks ago.
That's so cool though. Oh my gosh. No, even though I'm not even the one trying it, you're the coffee guy. And I can tell this is like, a huge deal. But like you said, it's such a delicacy. That's very cool that she sent it over.
Cash.
Cash coffee.
Yeah, it's good. I actually almost went down to the coffee shop downstairs Shout out Good Coffee. That's what it's called. Good Coffee.
Uh-huh.
Never mentioned it on the show. I almost went downstairs to talk to them and be like, hey, I have this cat coffee and I need your opinion on how I should, like do this. Should I do Chemex? Should I do French press? Should I just give it to you and you do it for me? Like, I get one shot of this and I don't want to screw it up. But I was like, you know what? I know what I'm doing. I'm just going to go for it. And it tastes really good.
Oh, wow. Jealous. I think I would actually try a sip just, well, now you've already done it. So it doesn't taste like straight up,
No, yeah, not at all. I never would have been like, oh, is this the cat poop coffee? But the company, they included an authenticity certificate right here.
Wow.
And then right here, we have a little explanation of how it works and how they get the beans. And then on the back, they have instructions on how you should enjoy it.
Hey.
Nice. I should have looked at that. But anyway, it tastes really good.
Right. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, a whole bag. I think Summer mentioned that it was, $200 or $300.
Oh my God.
Which is insane. So the sample that she got me was probably $20, which is insane. Because
that is crazy.
It's literally filled up to half, not even half of my cup.
Wow.
But guys, if you're balling, go get it.
And you're supposed to just have the coffee, like you're not supposed to, put any, I don't know, sweetener or like.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to get the true notes, definitely not.
Okay, the true shit notes.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want if I guess what it tastes like at first. I don't know. I guess because it's so expensive, you shouldn't really taint it with any dairy or sweeteners.
Yeah,
unless,
right.
Unless you're having it on the daily, then yeah, sure.
Wow, that's interesting. Well, thank you so much for giving me the live, reaction to cat shit coffee. I mean, who would have thought, that you would be trying that like a few weeks ago when we even talked about it?
I know. I went down to the mailroom. I saw a package. I said, hey, I didn't order that, but let's open it. And I was so confused. I actually didn't realize what it was. I knew it was coffee, but I immediately called Summer because she's the only person who would just send me something.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, this is, I guess, some pretty cool coffee. She said, yeah, that's the cat coffee that you talked about. I was like, oh. So thank you, Summer.
Summer coming through.
Oh, yeah. Hey, let's get Michael on the phone now. Well, Mike, thank you so much for coming on Tech Heads.
Yeah, no worries.
All right, cool. Well, basically, I wanted to invite Michael to our podcast because we've been colleagues for the past 2 years or so. We first met when I think we were both working on requirements for the University of Florida bachelor's degree. We're both applying to get into the computer science degree there. And we kind of connected through the online courses. And, we've been taking some of the same courses since. We've kept in touch. We have our quarterly or our, every 6 months we meet up for a beer or a meal to catch up. So I've gotten to learn more about him and what led up to him to his career at this point. And I just wanted to be able to ask some more questions and learn more and share with our podcast listeners about what has happened or what led up to your life up to this point. So why don't we start with that, Mike? If you're, okay, sharing some of your background information, how you got into coding or even before that and where you are now.
Yeah, sure. So I guess I should probably start off with dropping out of the University of Florida at year 2013. Yeah, 2013. So I originally went to college I graduated high school in 2010, went to UF. I was trying to become a doctor, and that didn't work out so well for me. Going to school at the University of Florida at the time, I was trying to do a few things. I partied a little too much. I wasn't doing so well in classes, and eventually I said, "All right, I need to leave." Wasn't all bad though. I had a lot of fun, but it wasn't the best. I did meet my to-be wife up there, and so we were living together while she was going to community college. And so after I dropped out, I was like, well, I can't just kind of bum around up here. So I started taking odd jobs. So I was working in Gainesville for the Salvation Army, which was a crappy job. And eventually my wife to be was like, hey, I'm going to finish my degree at UCF in Orlando. And I said, oh, I don't know if I want to go to Orlando. So I eventually made a decision. I'd follow her. And I was still just kind of working odd jobs for a while up until I want to say 2014, 2015, where I was like, all right, I need to probably get back in school and figure out something to do with my life. And so I did a bachelor's program through FIT and did some courses. And they weren't very robust, but I did take my first Java course there and found it pretty interesting. I didn't really know what you could really do with coding. But eventually during one of my, at one point when I was kind of thinking about my life, and I was like, well, I think I want to marry the girl I'm with, but I can't do it working, close to minimum wage jobs. So I was looking, I kept seeing ads on Facebook for like coding boot camps. So I was like, oh, do a boot camp, you can make like $70,000, $90,000 out. And I was like, dang, I just need some money. It's like, there it is right there. That sounds like a good deal. And so the one that I looked at was Hack Reactor. And it had a pretty robust interview process. I actually failed. So this was a coding camp out in California. I was like, well, failed that one. And so I was like, but I understand now there's a concept of coding boot camps, and there was one in Orlando. I was like, oh, let me try that one. And that one was a lot easier to get into. That was the Iron Yard in 2015. And the only decision I made, because I didn't really understand literally much of anything besides some basic Java programming, it said front-end engineering, but it said JavaScript, and that was the one that the Hack Reactor said. I was like, oh, dude, the JavaScript thing. I was like, oh, they said 70 to 90,000, so JavaScript must be the language making all the money. And that's all I was like, that's the decision I'm gonna make. I was just like, JavaScript's the one making the money. I don't know what front-end engineering. I have any idea what front-end engineering was, and I was like, gonna make money with JavaScript. So I took it. I did it, and I learned that front-end engineering turns out that you do a lot of web page design and make good-looking websites. But I did learn JavaScript there, and so I did that program in 2015 during the summer. At the time, I was working as a security guard in downtown Orlando. I'd been there for a few months, and the coding camp was a full-time program, and I didn't want to quit because I barely had any money as it was. So I was working overnights. I would, in the parking garage of the high-rise, I would change into some street clothes and then go to the Iron Yard, which was also downtown. So it kind of worked out a little bit. It sucked because I was working and doing coding camp, and I was exhausted, but I didn't have to pay for parking downtown Orlando.
So you did that for how long? Like the program was how long? 6 months?
No. It was a full time, so it was only 12 weeks.
Oh, okay. That's intense.
It was like 9 to 3. Like I said, I'd finish my shift at like 7ish. Change. I maybe would get some breakfast somewhere downtown, and then I'd roll in pretty exhausted to the coding camp, do some coding, do the class for the day, go home as soon as I could so I could sleep about like 6 hours or so I could wake up and go to the security job, and I would code on the job to get my homework done and stuff overnight. and then I would go after my shift and like in the parking garage, change and do it again. Luckily I was only part-time, so I'd get a break on like Thursdays and Fridays. So like I wouldn't work Thursday nights, so I'd get full sleep like Friday, Saturday and kind of catch up. But it was pretty intense. Those 12 weeks were, I had like 90 hours a week of either working or coding. And, I did pretty well in the program, I'd like to think. I got out and started just looking for jobs randomly. They had a sort of career services there, and they gave me a couple leads, but none of them really panned out. So I was just going everywhere. And at the time didn't know where to look for jobs. So I was on Craigslist. I was on a different like website, Indeed and Monster. I'd done a few interviews, and I was searching for months. Like, so I finished in August, and I was searching for months for that first job. And eventually someone responded on Craigslist and was like, oh, like come for this interview. And it was in Merritt Island. So if, Victor, to give you a kind of little bit of perspective, Orlando is in Central Florida, Merritt Island's on the East Coast, which isn't too bad. It's like a 45 to an hour drive, but like that's a drive. So I drove over there and did an interview, and it was a pretty good interview actually. They're like, hey, can you like, here's a sample mock we have. Can you build this web page? And I was like, sure. And I was like, so I built it. And they're like, cool. Can you start tomorrow? And I was like, yeah. And so in October, I would say a little over 3 months after I finished the code camp, I did get my first job. Wasn't a super awesome job. I made about $35,000 a year, but compared to $9.50 an hour as a security guard, it was pretty reasonable. And so that's kind of how it started. And that's really like I think the turning point of my life where I actually started working for something reasonable. I mean, it's unreasonable to me at the time now, but like looking back, that was pretty good. I had
definitely
credit card debt and student loans and stuff. I was like, oh my God, I can finally start making some money. So
I have a quick question. I want to rewind a little bit back to when you were on Facebook looking at these ads and you see the boot camp ads. So before that, you were at this point where you had never coded before, and that just piqued your interest, or did you did the FIT thing, right?
Yeah, I did a Java course.
Oh, Java, right. So before the Java, had you been exposed to anything that at all? Wow.
So yeah, I did the Java course. I didn't do anything. And I was seeing coding bootcamp stuff. I was like, oh, I kind of liked coding in Java. But like, I didn't really understand the concept of like different programming languages. In fact, I thought for a bit JavaScript was the same as Java. And I did a little bit of free code camp, not free code camp at the time. It was a Code Academy. That was big back in 2015. And so I was doing some of that. I didn't really understand where it became useful until I actually did the coding camp and built like a web application. I was like, oh, this is something people could use versus, console log hello world. And it's like, oh, great.
Yeah.
Right. You're hired.
I don't know how it's useful, but it's neat,
Right. Yeah. I think that's super common. Everybody wants to get into it. So they maybe start and then, they learn one that might be, your Javas, your Cs, your C sharps, and then that's kind of it. And they think that that's the peak or the end. So I think it's interesting that you took this interesting path where you started with Java, which a lot of people don't start with, and then you went into the boot camp, which kind of is in line with how I started, because I started with C, but like you said, I didn't know how it played into anything else. Really. I mean, I didn't really understand how any language worked other than C, and I could just write it. I didn't really actually understand the full story of it all. So I think it's really cool that you actually busted through that weird place where you don't know what's going on, and then you actually made it out of the boot camp and you got your Merritt Island job.
Well, honestly, man, it was just what kind of drove it was, and like I said, I didn't even know, I was like, oh, JavaScript, Java, like same difference, right? I was just like kind of following the promise, right? I was like, hey, if I work hard at this and like do good, I get a job that's not, $9.50 an hour downtown or $8 an hour or some kind of low wage job, I can actually support my wife, well, girl, like fiance, then when I was doing the program and make something of myself. Because I was just like, I'm like, I can't, I like, it was just the only real overriding thought in my head was I can't continue down the path I'm going. I got to do something. And this seemed like something that like, people were talking about like, hey, you do you do a program of some sort and you can get a job. And I was just like, that's all I need. I just need to kind of get in somewhere.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are in that position, as we speak. They're at a crossroads where do they continue to, barely get by at their, very demanding, low paying job, or do they take this, big leap and join a boot camp or, go back to school? And I think those times are where we're so willing to learn anything that'll make us happy and financially stable. Mm-hmm. Whereas when you're younger and you're in, high school, college, not a lot might be on the line for you. So maybe you're not as willing to actually put in the work to learn something that is, pretty difficult to, get a full scope of. But I think it's pretty common. Like a lot of people will turn to it, not just because it's, low entry point, high paying, but really just because it piques your interest. And I think it's really cool that you've actually gotten to this point. So now you're in school again with Anna, right?
Yeah.
How did that happen?
I finished up the FIT degree, and that took me like a number of years, and I racked up a bunch of student debt, but I was also using those loans to like freaking live on. So like I was, because $9.50 an hour, $8 an hour could barely pay my rent. So I was like, I was doing the dumb thing and racking up loans and living on them, and my wife was doing the same, and it was fine. We were good, but we were just kind of building this little debt monster. And I graduated from the FIT program, and it literally has not served me really in any way except to show that I have a bachelor's degree. And so I always wanted to kind of do something a little more robust, because I felt like there's a couple driving causes. I felt like once I'd gotten the job, and then soon my career was starting to get a little better and a little better every year. So I did the Merritt Island job only for about 9 months, and I actually got fired crazy but I soon got like a job like 2 weeks after with a company that my code camp had needed. They had given me contacts for, and funny enough, I told them on the interview that I'd gotten fired from my last job because I was just being honest, and they didn't hire me at first because they were like, oh, this dude got fired. He's obviously not a good employee, but somebody else who had interviewed there was like, oh, my buddy interviewed here too. Michael. And they're like, yeah, we didn't take him. He's like, he said he got fired for XYZ reason. They're like, oh yeah, dude, it was a terrible situation and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And they're like, oh, that dude was telling the truth. So they called me back and they're like, hey, you want to still work here? I was like, please, God, yes. Yeah. Now jobless and I need another job. And so that was my next job. And so it was a bump up from the Merritt Island job. It was one local in town. So my commute went from sometimes an hour there and an hour back to like 30 minutes. So cut the commute. It was a pay bump. And so that was my next job. And so as my career, getting back to the original point, as my career was kind of progressing in a weird way. I mean, yeah, that's pretty weird, but progressing, new job. I was like, oh, I feel like I've kind of been like shot in a catapult. I don't really have like a foundation for kind of some of the stuff I'm doing. I was like, most people kind of get into the field with a computer science degree. And so I was looking at some stuff, and lo and behold, my good old friend UF from where I dropped out at had an online program. And there was and I just kind of been thinking about it for like a while. I didn't actually pull the trigger for a long time because I was like, oh, I'm just gonna keep working. And so I worked at my new job, which was at a local kind of not really a startup, but they did e-commerce for like music, sheet music, and cuts. And so I was working another web job, and I had gotten a LinkedIn recruiter, one of the first ones to for a company called Express Scripts, which I'd known a little bit about because I used them when I was in the National Guard, and they I knew that they delivered medications, but I didn't know much else about them, and so I was like, oh, this sounds cool, like yeah, and the recruiter's like, yeah, sure, so I'll take your resume, give it to the hiring manager, and I'll send you the job description tomorrow. And I was like, cool. He sent it to me. It was like this ridiculous job description. I was like, oh, you need like 5 years of this and 5 years of that and experience in this. And I was like, man, screw this guy. And I didn't fill out the application. So I was like, I just ignored it. I was like, there's no way. And he gets back to me maybe a day or two later. He's like, hey, I gave your resume to the hiring manager and he wants to talk to you. Have you filled out the application yet? And I was like, oh no, I'll get to it. I was like, all right, I guess I'll fill this thing out. I still was like in disbelief at this point. And so I fill it out and the hiring manager calls me. I do the call interview and then he's like, oh, I want you to come in for an in-person interview. I was like, oh, cool. And I did that. I'm still not really thinking like this is like a serious thing. And but when they did the in-person interview, I was like, oh, maybe I should take this a little seriously. And so I bought some React course because I was like, oh, the only thing I know about this job is that they use React. I don't know React. So I bought a React course from some recommendation that some friend of mine gave me. And I just all weekend code and learn React. I was like, I gotta like show something on Monday when I do the interview. And I did that. And I interviewed and I thought I did pretty well. And it turned out I did because I eventually got the job a few weeks later. It was another step in my career and still unbelievable. And at that point, like I said, I'd been thinking this whole time, I'm kind of been shot from a catapult. I don't really have a foundation. So getting back to the original point, I was like, you know, a lot of people like have computer science degrees. And so this new company I worked for, they had a tuition reimbursement program. So I was like, oh, maybe this is like the time to go back and kind of solidify that foundation. So I had to wait 6 months from the job. And once I did, I was like, okay, cool. So the prerequisites for the UF computer science program were pretty shitty. I had and I can tell you there was like, you know, 3 years of calculus or three calculus courses and physics courses. And I was like, I barely remember math. So I just started chugging away at Valencia College here in Orlando. I was like, well, here's semester 1, pre-calc and trig, and started taking classes again. And eventually semester after semester, I built up the prereqs, and that's when Anna messaged me out of the blue, like, because I did an intro in one of the classes, like, oh, yeah, I'm trying to get into the computer science program. And she's like, oh, me too. And so then we just started talking to each other.
Yeah.
And we both got in, and then we started doing classes at UF online, which was pretty wild.
Yeah, we can, I'm sure, you know, the feeling is mutual, but we're nearly there.
That was 3 years ago, 4 years ago, almost.
Yeah, it was a while back, honestly. I mean, it's been a blur because, you know, of last year. It just went by so fast, but you know, this degree, I think, has gone by incredibly, you know, fast because of I mean, you know, we both work and you have a lot going on. You also teach, you know, you have your family. But yeah, I mean, we're almost there. And to think that we, you know, connected at Valencia when we were getting ready to get into the degree, it's just kind of nuts. But Yeah, I wanted to ask you something, goes into the fact that you now teach boot camps. So why did you think that, after you kind of felt established, or I don't know if that's a fair assumption, but like after you felt that you were established within your job, with this company, and you felt that you had like a good base, you wanted to share what you've learned, or you thought that maybe boot camps lack in what they teach? Why did you think that you decided to go for, like an instructor role within boot camps?
So let me correct your thinking a little bit. I have rarely ever felt established for like a safe base. And so, it's probably, some might view it as a pro, some might view it as kind of a character flaw, but I've never felt like I'm getting enough money. Like I keep getting money, but things will keep happening. Like, I lost the first job, and so I was like, oh crap, I need to get a new job, and I made more money from the new job, but then I was like, oh crap, my wife's pregnant, and now I need a house, so I need more money, and so the Express Scripts job came, and so I'm making more money. I'm still not, rock solid. The baby comes and we get a house, and I'm like, oh crap, like, and so actually, the UCF thing came about from, I remember when they opened the program, and I was like, oh, cool, I could be a TA for them. And I talked to a recruiter about it, and then he never got back to me because, like, at the time I was just a front end dev, and not even in the front end stack that they used, which at the time I knew a little bit of Angular for the front end from my old code camp, but they were using React and other things, and they also taught some PHP. I didn't know any of that, databases and all that. No. And so he told me no. And eventually later on, I saw another posting for it. I was like, well, now I know React, and I got a little more experience under my belt, so I need some more money. So let me see if I can score a little part-time work and make it. And they were like, oh yeah, this is the job, and blah blah blah, and we're replacing someone, so we need it. And I was like, cool. And I did pretty well in the interview and got the teaching assistant job. And so I was just working 2 jobs and making more money, and I was like, great. So I'm making more money. That was really the main drive. But I will say that it worked out, as it's kind of how the life goes. It's like, oh, I need to do this thing to make it, and then it's like, oh, cool, it worked out. Like, it wasn't like I had this like dream, like, oh, I'm gonna be this great programmer. It's like, no, I need to get out of the minimum wage like rat race, or oh, I love teaching. No, I saw this part-time work and wanted to make some more money, and it just turns out that it works out when I'm like, oh, I like this. So I did the teaching assistant role for 2, like a half a cohort, because they were almost done. It was like 6 weeks till they were done. So I finished that up, and then I did another full 6-month cohort. And during that time, I like used it and taught myself back end development, because like when I did the first one, I was like, oh crap, I don't know any back end stuff. And so when the students would ask for help, I'd be like, ooh. But then when I got to the next one and I started with them at the beginning, and so the instructor would teach like Node, and I'm like, oh, that's Node. This is how to do Node. And I was like, he taught MySQL. I was like, oh, that's MySQL. I taught myself to do MySQL. But like, I was picking it faster than them, obviously, because at this point I'd been pretty good at JavaScript, and I knew how to think in terms of problem solving. So I picked it up pretty good. And close to the end of it, I was like, oh, I could teach this. And I messaged in like the online board. I was like, hey, how does like a teaching assistant become an instructor? And my manager saw my post, and I was like, oh, we do have like a role if you want to apply for it. And I was like, sure. And so then I applied for it. And so I went from teaching assistant to instructor when I eventually got that. And so that was a big bump, because instructors make way more than teaching assistants, like more than double. So that was so now my part-time little gig had become way more lucrative, and still not feeling the stability or base that you're thinking, Anna. I know you're thinking like, oh, he's just getting more money, he's like banking over there. But like, you gotta think I was kind of drowning in debt at the time. I'd gotten like myself into student loans and thousands of dollars of credit card debt, and I was just kind of moving towards stability. Like I wasn't by any means going to like lose it, but I had always had in the back of my mind like, oh, all it'll take is for me to get laid off and I'm screwed, or all it'll take is like one more bill and I'm screwed. And so it just kept pushing me to like look for new jobs or look for opportunities. Around that time for teaching assistant instructor, I'd even taken some like some side jobs on Orlando Dev's channel. So I did a couple little contracts. I made some emails for someone. I tutored someone through the code camp, and I was just doing everything I can. I was like, I just need to keep making money, doing everything I can. And I think that drive has gotten me to where I am now, where I do at this point now feel pretty stable. It took a long time to get there, but like everything's kind of going right. I ended up having a second kid, and even that didn't put me back too much. So things have finally settled down. But that's
no, that's awesome. Yeah, no, it's very inspiring. I've always I've told Victor before, about like our friendship and how we connected through school, but obviously, because we already do distance learning through UF, it's nice to, like have a friendly face and like someone that you can study with and, chat, because, it's like, it feels disconnected if it's not like that, so, he's proof that I've told him, about you before, because you're a very hardworking guy, always willing to help, a very good person all around. So that's why we wanted to have you over so you could share everything that you just did pretty much. And I know that you're not going to stop. You're going to do amazing things. You have a very good work ethic, and I think that's what sets you apart from people that don't, that I guess are fine settling, like you're striving to do, to keep moving forward and building, cool things, providing for your family. So I think what I wanted to know, I don't know if we've ever talked about this before, but like after you finish the bachelor's degree, like what do you plan on doing? Are you going to go for, I don't know, a master's, like a graduate degree, so you can, keep building up on your academic, accomplishments, or are you just going to focus on working?
Yeah, honestly, I floated a few paths, really, since joining Express Scripts and shifting from a developer to a manager, to a senior manager. I I don't need these degree programs. But I feel like they're important. I think they're kind of like if I lost all my work now, at least I can kind of show like, hey, this guy has learned some stuff. And the UF degree has been great, and it's taught me a lot of the foundations I don't think I had, but it's also been sort of like the redemption story, right? I dropped out in 2013, and then I came back and ended up finishing UF's program. But in this managerial track, I've kind of thought about what comes after the degree program. A lot of kind of big executives I've seen, they have like, especially the techie ones, it's like, oh, you got your doctorate from like Princeton in computer science or whatnot. So really, I do it, one, for the credential, I think, and two, because I think that there is some value there. A lot of teaching positions at different universities require like a minimum of a master's program. So I started the Georgia Tech online masters for computer science. I've started their application process. I was looking at one through Columbia, but then my work didn't expand their tuition reimbursement process, and the one in Columbia was ludicrously expensive. So the one through Georgia Tech is cheap. And so that one will, I don't ever want to pay for school anymore, or take out loans anymore. As long as I still get paid to go to school, I'll keep going. Like, and it also has the side effect that as you're in school, your subsidized loans accrue no interest. So there's that little side benefit of, like it's saving me money there, and I'm working towards something, and as I'm paying them off, which I've been for months and months now, and slowly but surely getting it down. It's not gaining more interest, even though with the pandemic, I haven't been paying interest anyway, but eventually it's going to start back up. And so that's been helpful.
Yeah. No, awesome. Well, yeah, I think, like you said, it's an investment, for you and for your company as well, because, if you stay on with them and you're constantly improving yourself, by, learning new things. I think you've mentioned that you're interested in artificial intelligence, right? Is that like what a field that you would like to focus on?
So honestly, yeah, I have mentioned that, but I really haven't dug down and tried to teach it to myself, which I feel like is going to be the difference in whether or not it's something good for. It's, I'll say it's selfish again, but it's the kind of same thing when I first learned about coding. I was like, oh, I hear the money is in artificial intelligence, right? So like, it's not like, oh, I want to learn artificial intelligence because I'm inspired and it's passionate for me. It's like, no, I like heard that
because it pays the bills.
But I kind of just think, oh, maybe it'll be that thing again where it kind of works out, right? Maybe I will like it. And I just heard like ludicrous money stories, like Elon Musk's AI like nonprofit that they opened up in California pays some developers like $800,000 a year, just something ludicrous. Like,
oh wow,
that even like if you were in California, that's still way more than I could ever imagine.
Yeah, right.
And
of course,
I don't expect that, but like I hear, you hear that and you're like, oh, maybe there's something to it. So I have interest in that, but I think I'm just going to keep, chugging along, keep getting degree stuff paid for, learn different stuff. I've got a lot of little ideas, but right now has been this past, I would say since last October, I've been, in such a good spot that like I'm not like desperate anymore.
That's good. I'm good. I'm glad. Yeah, I mean, I think that, you shared even like way more than we probably had talked about before. So I appreciate that. I like learning about, people's stories, and, it's you've come a long way, but, because I've known you for a couple of years now, I know that this is only kind of like the beginning. There's still like a lot of good things coming your way. So just, keep up the great work. You're an awesome person. I really like having you as a friend, and I hope that we stay in touch even after we're both done with this degree. Even if you do go on to become an AI developer for Elon Musk, don't forget us, the little ones down here.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, it's not something I bring up all the time, but like, I view the story and I kind of like view it as unbelievable. I'm like, oh, like 5 years ago, I was walking up and down a high rise in downtown Orlando. Well, 6 years ago now at this point. And now I lead a team of software developers. It's crazy. I wouldn't believe it if you told me. So I kind of hope, that's in some way to inspire some people. I think it's inspired some of my students that I've taught. And I would just probably say, at the end of the day, it's really a little bit of desperation, some amount of drive that I think will feed success. If you put the hard work into it, and let me tell you, the hard work sucks. The hard work sucks so hard. And the desperation sucks, and all of it sucks. But in the end, once you get that first job, and once you kind of keep chugging, it all ends up working. Like, it all ended up working. It could have not worked. Maybe I would have never gotten that first job, and maybe I would have been out, the 11,000 for the boot camp. But it worked. I'm happy to say, I'm in such a good place.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Mike.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. It was truly inspiring, even just for me. I mean, the true honesty, the amount of hills that you climbed to get to where you are today. It's going to be really, really interesting to see what people decide to do with their lives after hearing what you actually shared with us today. So yeah, thanks for coming on Tech Heads. I would definitely love to hear back from you soon if we need, someone to weigh in on a topic or anything.
Sure, absolutely.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, take care.
Bye. All right, Anna, what do you have for us?
So a couple of things that I learned this week. Let me start with work. I remember that, I don't know if it was last week or the week before, I was discussing how I had come across Google Apps script, like to automate a task or something. So I was trying to download an Excel attachment that came from like a do not reply email to my inbox between 2 and 3 p.m. every day. And yeah, I was using, Google Apps script to download the attachment and then save it as a Google Sheet and copy the contents of that file into another master copy of a Google Sheet. So this week, I feel like I am polishing, the script. Finally got it to work. I mean, it's a very cool concept, because you can then get like a failure notifications and monitor how it's working. So that's where I'm at with that. And then another thing that I had to sort of learn how to use was PowerShell this week, because PowerShell, the way I see it, is kind of like the Windows equivalent to Terminal. And I'm very familiar with the Terminal because, when I got my Mac several years ago, I then joined the boot camp. So,
well, before what is a terminal?
It's kind of like an environment or like a program that you enter command line, prompts to execute some kind of, process within the computer. So it can be as simple as, if you open your terminal,
which everybody has,
right? Which everyone has. In Windows, it's going to be the command line. And then, I call it terminal because I have a Mac and that's what it's called.
The little black box at the bottom that looks kind of intimidating if you don't know what it is, but
right. That's what I think. I know. I think that's what all like Hollywood movies probably use, is like, several like commands executing, like right. Computer programmers only use a terminal.
It's like the Matrix
command line.
But in the green theme, which I think Terminal has the green theme on it to make it look like the Matrix. But anyway,
it does.
Okay, so now we all kind of know what a terminal is.
Right. Yeah. So in the terminal, you get to execute some commands. You have to first learn what it is that you're trying to achieve. But it can be as simple as opening a folder, taking a look at what files you have in that folder. And then it can get more elaborate than that. So I was using PowerShell this week because I have a Windows laptop. And I was trying to automate something that's a bit complicated. So in our SQL server, we had a query that generated a text file, and then we have to find a way to send that text file from our system, our server, to a third-party service that we have a contract with, right? Because we were trying to transfer the data that was in that in the text file to them. So I learned a little bit about PowerShell and executing a batch file, which used curl. So there was a curl command in batch. Obviously, a lot of, keyword terms that I'm throwing out there, but
we'll do a deep dive soon on terminal stuff definitely. And everything you can do. Because I love telling people about it, even if they don't know anything about computers. I try to get them to at least touch it.
Yeah, no, definitely. Terminal is very fun, and you don't have to worry about trying to use your file explorer, the equivalent of Finder in Mac, to navigate to your essentially like your folder and your file directory, like your tree.
Yeah, it's usually faster and easier to find what you're looking for.
Right. Yeah, so that's why with PowerShell, the commands are definitely, a bit different. So I had to go on Stack Overflow or just Google a few things about what I already know how to do. Like, if I want to show the contents of a file in the Mac terminal, I can just do cat, C-A-T, and then the file name, and it will show you, everything, just like in Linux. But in PowerShell, it was a little different. So I was trying to, make sure that, I could transfer the text file that we were generating from our server to the third party, service that we needed to provide the data, basically. And I finally got it working after like our VP, took a look at it, and our data architect took a look at it. So I felt a little good about myself, because honestly, the only thing I had to change was the path of the file itself. I didn't know that much about curl, so I did a little bit of reading about that. So yeah, with curl, it's just it's another process that you can transfer data, from like via HTTP request, I think. I'm not entirely sure like what the formal definition for it is, but that's, like when you work with APIs, you can use a curl method or you can use a REST method. So it's just another method that you can transfer data, or you can, pull it as well. So yeah, that's what I worked on this week. I think, that was at work. And then the only other thing I wanted to mention was at school in my intro to software engineering course. We're learning, what the agile methodology is. So I finally understand what a sprint is, because I always heard about sprints and I never really knew how each one was structured, what you were supposed to do. So in our class, we have a 3-sprint project that we're working on. And we just actually wrapped our first sprint, which was when you're gathering the client requirements for the project and you're elaborating the user stories. That's another thing that I learned. So user stories are like, what are their wishes? Like, what are they supposed to be accomplishing, within your web application, which in our case, it is a web app. So it's a lot of work. I'll tell you, I didn't know that, a planning sprint would take this much work, but essentially if you do it right, then it sets you up really nicely for a smooth transition into 2 and 3, when we are actually going to have something, working like a concrete, example of our site, or like the site itself. It has to be working with full functionality, front end and back end. So yeah, that was it was a busy week, but things are finally starting to make more sense. I think that's what I wanted to share. Nice.
Well, yeah, Kevin actually, when he was on the show, he had mentioned stories and that his company works with an agile methodology. So that's cool that you bring it up again. I've never personally worked anywhere that used it, but I want to, in the future, I want to use it. Last time I used it was actually in the boot camp for one of our projects. And I really liked it because it made the whole project that, at first it seemed like this very abstract, scary thing that we had to, hurdle over that was never going to be accomplished. But when you break it up into stories, it makes it seem way more doable, and you can, set yourself up to do this many per day or work on this one later, because you can do the rest pretty easily and, delegate the tasks much easier based on who's better at what.
Yeah, exactly. That's like you start off, with like your main goal, and then you will start to dissect that into user stories, and then the stories are comprised by tasks, and the tasks are eventually what you're going to end up coding, so that's what we had to, me and my group had to work on this week. And we met up with our client to give her like a progress update. And then, for the next couple of weeks, we're like this next week, we're already going into sprint 2, which, means that we're going to have quite a bit of work cut out for us. So it's interesting. I mean, it's the class is very, it's a lot different than I thought it would be, I think. I didn't know what to expect that much, but it's interesting to understand that, like companies actually apply this, to be able to plan and eventually deploy their applications or their projects. So it's very valuable to learn about that, even if you just watch like a couple of like YouTube tutorials, to understand. If you're doing a side project, you can totally do it, and apply agile to it to just get some practice in, because it's very much, just like an idea, you just have to apply apply the concepts to your side project, and say that you're familiar with it, because if you're following the stages of agile, then the phases, then you're very much applying it.
Yeah. Are you allowed to talk about a little bit of what this project is? So like, what is the front end that you're working on?
Yeah.
Like, what is it?
Yeah, actually. Yeah, sure thing. So what we found out was that, like we had a couple of projects to choose from, and then we had to rank them. So we ended up getting our first option, which is a children's website where parents and children can interact with each other by way of, reading flip books or listening to audiobooks. So it's like, because it is a children's site, it's going to be something very colorful. But the main things that we are focusing on implementing is, a flip book environment. So we're going to have like a bookshelf kind of thing where they can select, books that they want to that they want to read. And that if you're a member of the site, because I think our client said that she wants the books to be all public, but the audiobooks, you would have to become a member, which there is a fee attached to it. To be able to listen to the audiobooks. But yeah, we would have, a page where they can read the flip books, and we're getting all of that from like a third party service that through their API or an embedded iframe, you can, you already have like the flip book. So it's not like we're going to have to design a flip book reader or anything like that. We're just having to implement it. And yeah, with the audiobooks, we're also going to be hosting, the audios with another service, and finding a way to, embed it on our page. But yeah, it's going to be something very colorful, for kids. It's mainly a way to engage, parents and their children to, for like educational purposes, to have them learn something that they wouldn't in school, or just to encourage reading and, listening to educational things. And yeah, so it's coming along really nice. We definitely have like our work cut out for us, but after all the planning, I'm excited to get into it and start coding stuff. We decided to go, our stack is Django and React.
That was my next question.
So,
perfect.
Yeah. So I'm pretty excited. I watched a couple of tutorials on it. So now we're just gonna, get into it. We started our repo on GitHub, but it's, just the initial commit, like starter files essentially. So now we really have to, to get things moving and creating all of our apps within, Django and React. So I'm gonna be working with React, which is what, Kevin discussed last week. So yeah, my the front end engineer is pretty much going to be like leading it, and then I'm going to be, like his support there to make sure that we get all those tasks, finished. And then we have our back end guys that are going to be doing mainly the Django side and database. Yeah, we just got to meet in the middle. So I'm excited. I hope that, it turns out good. It's a functional site, because obviously, it's our term project. So
I never took you for a front end person, so this is going to be really cool to see. I'm excited to see when you're done with it. You said like 3 weeks, you think?
Well, actually, we're just starting sprint 2 this week.
Oh, okay.
So I think that's probably going to last like 3 to 4 weeks. And then we have sprint 3 until the end of the term, which our classes end at the end of April anyway. So yeah, we still have like another 2 months, to work on this. So hopefully when it's live, I'll be able to share more.
Oh yeah, we'll put the link
after
up.
After I turn it in. Yeah, for sure. I'm mainly excited for the tech stack that we decided to go with, because our professor, she told us that we're able to use anything. I know that Mean or Mern were definitely, options out there. But because our Scrum Master, suggested, and I like using Python too, even though now I'm more on the front end and they're doing back end, we both did a little bit of research a few days before we had to submit a full, commitment to which tech stack we were going to use. Then he has some experience with Django, and so we just decided to go with that.
Nice. I'm excited to see it.
Thanks. Yeah.
Well, for me this week, I have something to recommend that's super handy, and I think it's only on Mac. There might be some sort of similar thing on PC, or it's probably native to PCs. I actually don't know, but it's called Magnet.
Okay.
And all you do with this app is you create these shortcuts with the keyboard, or you can use the ones that it comes with, and it'll resize the windows on your screen super quickly. So if you do Control Option and then the arrow to the left, it'll split the window down the middle of the screen and put it on the left side.
Oh,
really
nice.
quickly.
I think I heard about that.
Yeah, I've been using
I
it for
haven't had it in a
years, and
while.
I don't even like think about it anymore. I just like, here, I'll demonstrate with Ableton. You've probably seen me
Oh,
do this in the office and didn't even like
yeah.
really think about it. But yeah, I've been using this for a long
Right.
time, and it is so handy.
You already know all the shortcuts.
Oh yeah, you can do down, up, right, upper corner, lower corners, everything.
Nice.
It's so handy. Instead of like manually resizing it with the corner, and then you get that spot where you hover the cursor over and it doesn't turn into that diagonal arrow. And you're like, come on.
Yeah.
And you move it slowly, and then it disappears and turns back into a cursor. It's the worst. So
I know. No, yeah, that's very that reminded me of another extension that I used. Actually, I found out about it during the boot camp called Flux, which is, like it dims or it changes the color of your screen, as the day goes by, depending on your preferences, like the time that you woke up. So it starts to get more towards like I think in the like yellowish and
like
orange the later it gets. Yeah, warmer colors, right. And yeah, I've been using that one for a long time now too.
Nice. I also have
easy in the eyes.
some quick news that is just weird. Facebook just released a new app called Bars, which will let you rap over pre-made beats.
Huh.
And I don't know what to think about it, because like, what does Facebook have to do with rapping and making beats? Because I would imagine that these have to be royalty free.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe they can use Spotify or something.
Maybe.
This app is called Bars. Its main selling point is that it provides the beats and lets you create 60-second rap videos over them. According to TechCrunch, you can then post the video to a TikTok-style feed where people can watch it and mark it as fire. That is, of course, if your skills are up to par. The app also promises studio-quality vocal effects, including actual, honest-to-goodness auto-tune. I hope there's a slider that goes from making my voice passable to T-Pain.
That's so interesting. I'm trying to like, yeah, it is
It's
weird
so specific because like TikTok, I would imagine any sort of anything is acceptable on there, right? Like you can talk about the book you read, or you can dance, but this is like just rapping, so it's kind of strange. Okay, going off of like apropos of nothing whatsoever, but I actually helped make a TikTok a few days ago with Dylan.
Oh, you did?
And it has 1 million views.
No way.
Yeah.
Really? That's sick.
Yeah, I'm not in it. I just kind of did the research. So, okay. We've been watching iCarly for no reason at all. We just kind of put it on, and it slowly has turned into this thing where we're actually seriously analyzing it, because we were so young when we watched it. Did you ever watch iCarly?
Yeah. Okay. I was actually just watching it last week too.
Perfect. So we've been watching it, from this more adult perspective and being like, hey, I never thought about that. Like, why are they like this? And like, do they really mean to be that deep and scary when like something, that maybe brushed over our heads? So we were talking about their apartment and how it is just so big and has to be so expensive. So we started going through every scenario, like, oh, this is how they could afford if they did this or like that. So I I wrote a script for Dylan and I did all the market research, and she made a TikTok and just read it, and it went viral. And it doesn't have 1 million likes just yet, I don't think. It's definitely like 950,000 likes, but over 1 million views, I think.
Wow, that's sick.
It was so weird. We just like, I don't know. At the same time, I kind of knew it was going to, because it was just so, but I don't know. I think iCarly is kind of a big talking point right now for a lot of people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, my bad. It has 986,000 views, but 239 or 89,000 likes.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, and then part 2, and then we made a new one recently. Pretty dark stuff, but pretty cool. I guess people like it.
Yeah, right. No, it's an interesting show. It's so funny that you mentioned it, because I was watching it because I think when I was younger, I didn't really watch it. Like I might have, been sitting at the living room and my sister would probably had it on, but I never really cared for it. Sure. Like either iCarly or because iCarly was a spinoff from Drake and Josh, right? Wasn't she like the sister in Drake and Josh?
She was the sister. Yeah, it's not a spinoff though. Although,
it's not. Okay.
I do have an interesting theory that it is a spinoff, but it's not officially.
Well, no, yeah. So like I might have watched it just in passing, some of those shows. Yeah. And then last week when I actually sat down and I watched like 1 or 2 episodes, I turned to Sam and I was like, this is actually some funny stuff. Yeah. Like what they're saying is, definitely not for little kids, it's like some of the jokes would definitely would just go right over your head. If you didn't pay attention, but yeah, it can be very funny. So I think I understand the appeal now. And it's also the nostalgia factor, because that was like a big thing, 15 years ago. And where, like people who watched it, like I was 15 when it was probably airing. So Jeez. Do the math. Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah. It's a good show. I think we just finished watching them all, even though I don't think Netflix has all the episodes. But we watched whatever's available. Okay.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's a cool one. If you need some time to kill, because the other day I was so sad I couldn't turn The Office on. I was up until really late doing homework, and up until like last fall, what I used to do was, even if I finished my homework at like 2-3 in the morning, I turned the TV on and I watched like maybe 1 or 2 episodes of The Office before I could finally, start to like transition into sleep mode. Mm-hmm. And then I can't do that anymore because it's on Peacock and annoyed. Big honestly, bummer. I think I'm gonna end up buying the digital episodes on, I don't know, Apple TV or whatever, just to have it, because I like watching random episodes every now and then. Anyway,
well, that would have been a good Christmas gift for you that I didn't get. But your Christmas gift, I got the notification that it arrived at your place.
No way.
Yeah.
When?
Yesterday.
Oh, what? Oh, it's probably in the mailbox, so I'll check it out later today, and then I'll let you know.
Perfect. If it's not,
awesome,
then I can just tell you what it is. It's kind of funny, but it's not. It's not the Office box set.
No, don't worry. But yeah, no, I'm so excited to see. I appreciate it.
Sweet. Well, another episode in the can. See you all next week. Peace.
See you guys. Bye.